Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it has been quite a wait. Wow. um, Miss Cynthia Ellis is a woman on the move, and she has been doing a lot of moving around. Last we spoke, she was on her way to Barranco, and then she was in Hopkins, and then Placencia, and um, I was on vacation, and then I came back from vacation. So we're women on the move. We are just having a lot to do, and I have a video coming up. Excuse me, it's very loud here. I have a video coming up on family community here in Germany. I visited with my in-laws while we were away and got to learn so much about all this rich heritage. If you can believe it or not, there was more than just World War II that happened here, guys. And the video will get into, the family from my husband who have a really, really rich history. Yes, they do have some people who were in the war. And I have all of that in the video. But we'll give you a nice tour of the house and see my mother-in-law bake birthday cake for me. She was very sweet to do that. But today we're talking about community and family, specifically in the Garifuna community. And so, Mom, you and I spoke. Um, about family and community and the extended family and how we as Garifuna culturally help one another as a part of our way of being. I could remember, and I'm going to start with this specifically. I'm going to start with the I. I remember we had taken in some foster children, and I remember being 15 years old and caring for kids as young as 6 months old, which I was happy to do, and made me feel even more convicted in the community and family and giving back, even at such a young age, because I just saw that that was an experience that really helped to shape the ideology or the philosophy of each one teach one. You do what you can, when you can, how you can, for everyone who needs help. And so we were talking about Garifuna people in position at the moment and how that reflects on our communities as a whole. When I say communities, I mean specifically Barranco, Honduras, PG, Placencia, Hopkins. I'm going to throw Placencia in there too because I know that there are Garifuna people living in Placencia. Hopkins, St. Vita, and Dangriga. So all of those communities have is where I learned about culture and community of my people. Yet there seems to be a strange kind of disconnect happening, if I may, between Garifuna people in position and the people who need that community support, or at least that guidance to say, like, okay, this is how I lift myself out of poverty. This is how we deal with issues within the community, within families. This is what makes us a people that are united. So I'd like to start there first. I know I've been reading that the Belize, the commissioner of police is Garifuna. The bishop from Belize is Garifuna, and some other people. I know a lot of Garifuna doctors, medical and otherwise. How is this reflecting in our community as people? And if not, if we're not satisfied with how it's reflected, what is it that you think we can do more of or less of in order for us to be viewed more as a community? So,
okay, wonderful. Good day, Nehanda. It's a beautiful sunny day here.
It is here too as
I'm
well.
in Belize City. And for those who are concerned about moving around, as people, especially my family, I use a lot of wisdom, and I tell people like keep in a bubble, a sacred bubble.
Right.
And disregarding the rules and social distancing and masking and all of that. I'm very intentional. I just thought it might be very useful, and I thank you for this topic again this morning, that we just remind people or inform people who may be joining for the first time that Garifuna are people who were not enslaved, and
Right.
they are people who are on the entire coast of Central America, and there are two versions of the story. One is that our homeland or origin in St. Vincent, where we connected with the Carib Indians, as they were called at that time. We were called Black Caribs, so African and original people combined, and some of us agreed. Our leader, called Chatouillet, was very difficult to control by the Europeans. And when Chatouillet was killed, there were some of us who, refusing to live under colonial suppression, agreed to move to Central America. So that's just a little background,
Right.
And the beauty or the power of the Garifuna people, who were concentrated all the way in Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, Central America.
Mom, can you please excuse me one second?
That's where I live, but we have Garifuna all over the world. We have Garifuna in the United States. Okay, and so the significance of concentrating on Garifuna as a model is that we are a people who have been able to transcend and overcome adversity, and to love in the midst of adversity. And that's why I really appreciate our having this conversation. We're also a people who interact and get on with a lot of people, So you mentioned, the question you were raising is, how come there are so many Garifuna people in position? And for example, you mentioned that the Catholic bishop is a Garifuna. The Catholic bishop in Belize is a Garifuna. The head of police, the commissioner of police is Garifuna. And we can list many of these people who have these big positions. And my response to that in terms of our moving forward is that it's not just about position, it's about positioning.
Right.
Positioning. So even without titles, the positioning is also very important as we are looking at community and family and finding love or being loved. The Catholic Church, for example, saw the importance or the gifting of the Garifuna people many years ago in being able to travel from one end of the world to the other, and to be able to adjust and to live with all kinds of people. So we were able to live in Mayan communities, not understanding the language initially, and really be able to educate and build schools in these rural communities. So that is very significant in the fact that although we left our families in what were the Garifuna settlements along the coast, we usually settle along the coast, we have a very close affinity to water. We are by the sea or by the river or both. We were able to engage with communities, Mayan communities, learn the language, and very successfully establish schools all over the country. So I think that's one of the key in this experience and this journey has been to be able to find love wherever you are. So you are love, and you share that love with any human being, with humanity.
Right.
That's a very beautiful gift.
Right.
To be able to do that.
Right.
So as I shared with you some time ago, I was delivered by a Mayan midwife. So even though my family, father, mother, well, mother, because she birthed me, a grandmother, aunt were present, there were also members of community who were not Garifuna, who became, to all intents and purposes, our family.
Right.
So family is not just defined as blood ties or bloodline, but whoever shows that caring and that love. So it's almost like we adopt one another
Right.
as family. So, and we are looking at family as beyond nuclear family. Nuclear meaning mother, father, two children, a dog
Right.
and a cat.
Right. Right.
You
And
know,
and
we're
I
looking
think
at family
that
as
that is one
an
of the things that
interaction
we
and a caring for people who are sent or come into our path. And that's a very important understanding to have. And so, in many cases, for example, if there are children who are not born out of a biological connection, those would still be your brothers and sisters. So you may discover long afterwards that whom you thought was your blood brother or sister was not necessarily so. For example, I have a grandfather who I had no biological connection with, and it wasn't until years that I discovered that he was not my biological grandfather. And I thought that he was, I really thought that that we were blood related, but that did not change the love that I have for him. And it's like my grandmother, our grandmother, brought us up in a yard. She took care of us. She fed us and made sure our physical and emotional needs were met. Cousins, and I really sincerely thought that my cousins were my brothers and sisters. So I felt like I had a host of brothers and sisters, and I had many mothers and fathers. That's how I experienced it as a child.
right. And I think that it's really important to speak specifically about Gramps and Granny, your mother and father, and how many foster children they have in the Garifuna communities, or how many Garifuna communities they were a part of in their home away from home. I know
Yes.
Granny is referred to in San Ignacio by other Garifuna women, like teachers and other working professionals. They would come to the house and they would have their informal meetings all the time, and they refer to her as Wayo, which is
That's right.
like mother. It means like the elder woman who looks
Yes.
after the community. And
Yes.
she would sit and have clinic, like she was like
Yes.
their therapist, and she would listen to them for hours about whatever it is that they were going through or whatever issues they might have wanted counsel on. She was the one who would give advice, motivate, inspire, encourage, and still does to this day. And one of the reasons why I can now reflect back and notice is because she was, in her own way, a very good listener, and she was very experienced. She had a lot of experience, and she didn't keep it to herself. She always made herself as visible as possible in the community so that people knew that she was available to help and teach. As a matter of fact, she was a teacher. And so that came as second nature to her. But as her grandchild, I often felt like she was like a second mother to me, and I know a lot of people felt that way as well. And that is part of what Garifuna Duo means, is that everybody has a role with what they have to share and give back, right?
Right. So that's beautiful. I just on my journey, In Barranco, I attended a shugo, and it was a very beautiful manifestation of this caring and this love. And the first thing, going to Barranco, I did not have to. I wasn't worried or preoccupied about where I was going to stay or how I was going to live or what I was going to eat. Now, in the other world, there would be a frantic anxiety about finding a hotel, having enough money to pay for a guest house, and so on and so forth. Going into the Garifuna community, I knew that I will be taken care of. So I had place to stay, and in the Bueba, which is the sacred temple, I would have just simply brought my hammock, or someone would have loaned me a hammock where I would be able to rest. So there's all this caring, and everybody was fed in the midst of this healing sacred circle that took place.
Right.
One of the beautiful things that happened as well, which really impacted on me, is that there are many children and young people who speak the Garifuna language and know the Garifuna customs. So while there's a concern about that happening less and less, it was very uplifting for me to experience children and young people singing songs, speaking Garifuna. And Dr. Joseph Palacio facilitated a gathering in the Dabueba first night of Shugo, where he invited people to ask questions as to why we are having a show. It was so powerful because we sat in a circle within the WMA. Children, elders, men, women, young people. And he invited us to come up with questions. And of those five, four of the questions came from young people. So like what you're doing here through this video was pretty much the kind of process that we went through, so that there will be an understanding as to who we are, why we do what we do. And one of the questions that was asked was, what is the link between the Shugo and Garifuna Duo? And from the last program, remember, we mentioned that Garifuna Duo is caring for and loving for and being concerned for one another. I for you, you for me. And it is a different way from other ways in the world where it's a dog eat dog, I for myself and only my for myself world.
Right. Yeah, I think that that's part of the reason why I was so moved by my experience up north with my in-laws, is because it really goes back to this this sense of a way of being a tribe and a small community. My husband likes to use the term Viking because that's the closest thing to tribal people that he can relate to. And so his aunts did the same. Well, actually, his entire family. So I have an older daughter who we brought along into Germany, who is not his biological child, but his daughter. And his family really embraced her as their own from the beginning. And I can see the similarities with my culture and that culture, where we are all one in a community and a family. And so, like grandpa would take Cynthia to go fox hunting. He took her out in the community by bike. He showed her, the difference between a potato and a carrot, and how to pick the how to pick the little bugs off of the potatoes. And then he would go and say, yes, you see, when your dad, was a child, he had to pick the bugs off too. And then she have to learn how to drive a tractor, there's a lot of, then he showed him all of the baskets all the baskets from his father. So Simon's grandfather, and he would say, yes, he learned how to make baskets, and that was his trade, that was his profession. And I'm a carpenter, I do carpentry. And so anyways, I get into more details with that, but it really started to help me to reflect on my own culture and cross-cultural similarities as well. We talk about Garifuna people being able to be very diverse and adaptable to other cultures. And I think that that is one of the things, because it is a part of who we are, to be welcoming people, that we have that sense of self and who we are. Let us talk about that specific thing, since we're bringing up the concern of the culture not having what it used to have, like the young people being able to speak the language and understand why we do what we do, and really. So I always knew that being a Garifuna, and saying that I'm a Garifuna, was important. And I think I could remember the first time I was aware of that. And I just have to say this for all intents and purposes of the video, and maybe you can share your experience as well. I never felt like being a Garifuna was a bad thing, but I definitely felt a sense of longing to want to be more Garifuna, if you know what I mean. I went on a school trip, and I was in school in San Ignacio, and we had taken the trip to Hopkins. I don't know why they picked Hopkins, but they picked it, and we went down there, and the class, the school, the everything was in Garifuna, and all the kids my age at that time spoke Garifuna. And I just felt like I just got chills all over my body. I might have been 11 or 10 years old. And I just thought to myself, I came home and I said to my grandmother and my grandfather, I can't believe that I don't know how to speak my language. How could you let this happen? Like, I was accusing them, like, why did you teach me? And I just went into my room. I was so hurt. And that was the first time that they weren't so concerned with me being, I guess, disrespectful or anything. They were just like, wow, we've really done her a disservice. And that's when Grandpa and Granny would sit everybody down, me and my brothers, and start to teach us how to count and to say our ABCs and give the culture of how we came to Belize. And that really helped me to feel more confident and more proud of my culture. And I only wish that we had done that sooner and more in our family. So why is it that is important to do in the younger generation? Because as Cynthia comes of age, I know it sounds kind of cliche. We have this conversation a lot. Well, where did this one come from, and where did that one come from, and who is this and who's that? And so I've been reaching out to all my family members to just be like, help me put the pieces of the puzzle together so that she can have that sense of identity, because that is super, super important.
Well, I just want to invite you to explore that for yourself, in that place where I don't live a life of regrets. I see
No. I'm not saying it's a regret. I'm just saying that.
And when awareness comes, or let's say consciousness comes, then it's an opportunity to move to that level of doing something about it. And I look at life as balance. You raise an important issue just now about the condition of the Garifuna people. So it's not all good, it's not all bad, it's neither. It's just finding a balance. My parents made a decision, and I think it was a good one, and I'm thankful, not to bring us up in the Garifuna community because they recognized that there were certain resources and access to resources that they wanted us to have, which the reality was that Garifuna people have not been treated with honor and respect in our countries. And so they made a strategic decision to bring up within those environments where we would be able to have mobility and able to articulate from a position of power in the context of the world, the other world, you know. And so as I shared with you,
I
when
like
I went
that.
to one of the best
I like that.
schools in the country, although I was aware that I was a Garifuna, I did not look at that from a point of being marginalized or being a minority. But there were my other colleagues who suffered from that kind of, I want to say, stigma. So I want to thank my parents and grandparents for having had that vision of empowering me to the point that no matter where I was or where I am in the world, I don't feel less than anybody because I am a Garifuna.
So can we speak in more detail about that point specifically for all of the parents, for all of the Garifuna parents right now who are now raising Garifuna children or quote unquote half Garifuna children? Can you speak to that point exactly as to what that strategy is? Because you also, however you did that with us. So we acknowledge ourselves as Garifuna, but that was never like an issue that we felt ashamed to say.
Right, right. And it's the same thing I find like when I go to the United States. So I grew up, remember my grandfather gathered all our cousins, myself and cousins, and schooled us into who we are, or a sense of identity. So as I'm little, I'm being told and given this sense that I'm not better than anybody and nobody's better than me. So that was planted in my psyche from very early.
Okay.
That was intentional. Right? That was an intentional teaching, not just from my parents, but my grandparents. And even though they didn't say it, we also acted in that way. So no matter what part of the world I went into, I was very oblivious. I was aware, but really oblivious to the fact that Garifuna people or people of color are being discriminated against.
Right.
And so I moved that power and sense of self everywhere I went in the world. And that is very important in parenting. So it's not that you're in denial of the cruelty that human beings do to each other, but the denial is that is not who I am. I know who I am. Okay? And so that is very powerful to instill in children from very early. So as a grandmother, I have experienced the delivery of 3 of my grandchildren, and as they came into the world and I held them in my arms, as they came out in the delivery room, I spoke that into their lives. I literally spoke to this newborn baby. You are beautiful, you're a child of God, you are here to do great things. That's one experience, one point. The other one is that for those, this is my observation, this is Cinderella's observation, but those who grew up in the Garifuna community, knowing the language, the dances, the rituals, and so on, which is very beautiful and very powerful, that's a gift that those of us who did not grow up in the community can access. It's very accessible by going and immersing yourself. Like when students abroad come and they immerse in the culture and the language, we can do that too. And so that loss that you are feeling is real, and you can do something about it. The first thing you are doing about it is the awareness that is something that you need and you want. So you can speak in Garifuna, you can learn Garifuna. There are many ways in which to do that. And even though you may not know the language in terms of the words, the language is in your DNA. It's something you cannot help. So you have not lost anything as such. So what has happened is that you can be intentional in moving forth and really giving that to children and to grandchildren and to others who come in your path, because the language is very powerful, and the
Right.
language is not only words. Language is ways of being. It's like planting the cassava, processing the cassava, the outfits that you wear. I sent you pictures of us at the Dabuyeba. I wear my outfit and I'm making a statement. That's a language of itself when I wear my Garifuna outfit and how I tie my head and things like
Actually,
that.
even wearing
That's a
certain
state of
colors.
being. And you can do that anywhere in the world. And that makes a statement as to who you are. And there's something very spiritual. When I wear my Garifuna outfit, I just feel totally different. I walk different. I talk different. Somebody said I have a special swag when I'm wearing my Garifuna outfit. So loving yourself is part of wearing your outfit, is loving yourself as well, since our theme is finding love, and that is being love in itself as a Garifuna woman.
Right.
And what was very touching for me was when I heard, you see, we tell the story differently by going deeper into the communities and going on this pilgrimage that I'm calling it. And I saw these young Garifuna men beating drum. And I'm talking about young men, Garifuna from all over the country. So you don't have to physically live in the Garifuna community. These young men were singing the songs and beating the drums, and they were doing that not only as a part of the ritual, but after the ritual finished, they were having fun. Just singing and playing drums all night. They weren't being raga raga and playing these musics that the elders criticize them about. And they wore their Garifuna outfits with pride. And similarly with the women.
Right.
So I am suggesting that once we get into that deeper core of who we are, this sense of identity, this sense of self, the chills that you feel running through your spine will continue because you get a level of awareness and consciousness about yourself, and that you have to be intentional in finding the balance. It's not all good and all bad. And so we need to explore the question you're asking about development and condition of our people and positioning.
Right.
We have all of that. And how can we use that to develop, enhance, and improve the quality of life in the Garifuna communities?
Right.
So,
exactly.
For example, in Barranco, my internet access is compromised, for example. So that is something that we can find useful from the other world. You know? It's okay to have internet access that works.
Right. I really, really like that. I think that is super important because we, when you talk about modern Garifuna, I think when we started this conversation and we were looking at Garifuna past, present, and future, where is this all going? And the question that keeps coming up for me is, why is it relevant? I know why it's relevant, because having a sense of who I am lets me stand assured in what is it that I want in life, because I'm clear about my authentic self. And so for the younger generation just coming up and forming that sense of identity, they have to be also taught why that clarity why that clarity is a serious part of who they are and what they do and how successful they become, whatever success is for them, how they can have a happier sense of self. And that can only come from having this experience and these conversations. What I am very much aware of now that I am a little bit older is that there's less intentionality, which makes the gap wider. We were more intentional as a people. Like, I listened to other Garifuna professionals say things like, well, so-and-so made sure that I got into college, or so-and-so sat me down and told me that this is how it needs to be done. You know, it wasn't always just mom and dad. Somebody did the work of pulling somebody aside and saying, look, darling, sweetheart, um, you have to get your act together. And so those of us who are coming of age, those of us who are in my age range and older, can take it upon themselves, or not take it, to take the Garifuna way into their own personal life. Maybe there might be someone around that it doesn't have to be a Cynthia Ellis all the time, or some high profile person. There are a lot of us who are in position who can do more within our communities, especially if you see it is a Garifuna person, and we don't just have Garifuna communities in the South anymore. We have a whole Garifuna community in San Ignacio, Santa Elena. No, do we have a community in Santa Elena?
Yes.
Yeah, we have it in the West, in the North. There is a community in the North. What I have found, and I don't want to dwell on this because our time is up, and I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but we want to keep the conversation organic. So I am reflecting as I say to myself that my experience of my community has not always been a good one. And I know when we got cut off earlier, we were talking about African American communities and Black African communities and the jadedness of how we fight internally with one another. And I just want to say that that is a real issue that we can probably address more in detail at some point. Conflict within the community, what causes it, and what we need to do more of and what we need to do less of. So that's going to be like a part 2. But in between the part 2, I want to show how the German community embraced us when we went for my birthday. But I just really want to talk about the conflict because, for example, Cynthia and I had a conversation about hair yesterday. And she said something like, I really don't like my hair. It's very difficult. It's a lot. It takes a while. It's a whole project. And I just don't want to be bothered with dealing with my hair. Mom, are you okay?
Hello. Yes, I am.
So she's like, you do it. You do my hair. And I said, I really need to pass on this knowledge of hair to you because it is an extremely big part of being a woman of Black African descent. And it is something that makes you very unique and special. And it is alive and it is electrical and it is amazing and beautiful and super special. It is of great value and a huge part of who you are. And so she kind of opened her eyes big. I remember when I had just gone natural, I had moved back to Dangriga with this idea that that I was going to be embraced because I'm in my community and everybody has their hair natural. That wasn't the case. Not a lot of females were wearing their hair natural at that time. And I had my hair really short. And they used to call me pickehead. When I first started school, everybody was teasing me about not having any hair. And then 6 months later, I had a full head of hair that I could put in a ponytail. And all those people who were teasing me still had the same length hair. And so they all decided to cut their hair and go natural. Well, most of them did. And so I felt really rejected in the beginning when my community didn't embrace me for my natural beauty, because I expected that being in my community that would be acceptable and okay. But that wasn't my first experience. But I was still true to who I am, and then I became a leader in that perspective. So I just want to make sure that I'm encouraging people that being a part of community doesn't always mean that you are following the flock, but you're sometimes setting a trend and setting a new way of being in the community itself. And not to give up, in your own individuality, because we are also changing what it means to be Garifuna as we speak.
Right.
Yeah. And that's all I want to say. So you can sign up, Mom.
Beautiful. I just had one thing to say, because we can really touch a lot of topics, and that is what I learned in my journey, especially doing the spiritual cleanse, is that everybody is at a different level, and everybody journey is different, and therefore be responsible for your own journey. And I am responsible for my own journey without being selfish, and realizing that I do not need to be burdened by what has gone before, and what is present, and what is to come. And therefore, by being my best self, then I will be able to be an inspiration by who I am and my authenticity. So all these different issues.
Remember what happened earlier?
Before us.
Remember? Right, exactly. I love it. Okay, guys, we're 10 minutes over time, but that's how it was. It's a lot of juiciness here. Please tune in again next time, and like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. This is the wonderful Miss Ellis, and we'll see you later. Bye.